did I always want to be a dad? Did I always want to be a father? It's interesting because in my life experience, something that I have heard many times from females, from women, and that is, I just always wanted to be a mom. And it's interesting because if you try to have that conversation with a man and you ask him, hey, did you always want to be a dad? Well, there's your answer. If you have to ask him, if that's not something we're used to hearing, that already answers that for you. Men are not preoccupied with this desire to become a dad in the same way that women are wired to want to be a mother. However, that doesn't mean that I didn't want to be dad. Here's the best way I can explain it. It's that I always knew I would be a dad. And for me, that meant whether it was biological or I was adopting, I knew in my mind I would marry a woman and we would have a few kids. Again, whether we could conceive them biologically or we adopted. Either way, in my mind, I was going to be raising children. It was something I always knew would happen. It's not something that I necessarily thought about like, I need this and I want this. I just knew there would be something. I think of it as fatherhood as a rite of passage into manhood. That's how I perceive it. It's like the same thing with marriage. It's something that happens to men. They see this woman that they can't live without, and they want to spend the rest of their life with this woman. And through that process, they become more of a man. They become more intelligent. They become more skilled. They become more understanding. They become better people by being married to this woman that they love so much. It's funny because, for example, if it were up to me, I would be happy living in a shack. I wouldn't care. But not until I got married that I realized, oh, okay, so I guess we're going to buy a townhouse. That's what we do. Okay, that's the cool thing to do, and we're responsible and we're adults. We're gonna live in a townhouse. And then several years later, okay, we're gonna move to the suburbs now, and we're gonna have a house and a 2-car garage and a yard and live in a cul-de-sac. Oh, okay, that's what we do. What I'm saying is, I think for men, it's a matter of they know subconsciously that there are certain things that are going to happen to them almost by default. You're going to fall in love with a woman you can't live without. You're going to end up having kids, again, whether biologically or adopting them. You're going to go through the whole, from townhouse to moving to the suburbs and all these things. And it's like funny, even for the amount of money that I now make, I was not that inspired by money before I got married. I wasn't. I was fine just paying the bills and getting by and just kind of coasting through life. But when I got married, that all changed. Suddenly, I realized I had to, where's the next level? Where can you climb to in your career? And if it weren't for my wife, I would not be making the amount of money I make now. I mean, not only my full-time job, but all my side jobs. It has turned on this part of my brain to think, okay, how can I be that much more of a provider all the time? So it's interesting that all these things happen to a man, and they're just part of that journey through masculinity. It's what helps build, and I can tell you absolutely, had I not gotten married, had I not have 2 kids, I would be a much lesser juvenile version of myself today. There's no way around it. I'd be much more self-centered, and that's probably the greatest achievement more than anything. That by being married for over a decade and having 2 kids and really challenging myself in my career and my side hustles that I do. None of that would have happened had I not married my wife and us had these 2 kids. So I think it's just a matter of perception. I think whereas many women always had wanted to be a mom, I think for a lot of men, they just assume that they're going to end up being a dad at some point when that time comes. And the time, when I got married, like I said, over 10 years ago, when I was 27, and that's when it happened for me. So I think that's what happens. I think that's the difference. And I'm happy to be a dad. I can't imagine any other way. Now, granted, it has been so challenging in so many ways, but it's built my character in the same way that being married to the same person for over a decade will do. So those are my thoughts. If you got anything you want to add to that, I'd love to hear it right here in the comments.